call this Planning and Economic Development Committee meeting to order. Today's date is June 18th. It is 4:30 p.m. And we'll have a moment of silence. Mr. Root?
Yes, sir.
Would you like to lead
Pray
us
with
in
me
our
if you'd like to.
invocation?
Dear Father, thank you for this day that you have gifted to us. We didn't earn it and didn't deserve it, but in your kindness and your faithfulness, you have given us this day, each moment, and the opportunities to do good things for our fellow citizens, for your kingdom. And I pray this meeting would be toward that end, that you would guide our hearts, guide council's minds and hearts, and just help us to do the right thing and to do it well. In your name I pray. Amen.
Mr. Hart, you want to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes, sir. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, next on the agenda is approval of the minutes that were documented on March 19th, 2024. Do I hear a motion to approve?
Make a motion.
A second. All in favor?
I'll second.
Aye.
Aye.
The vote is 3-0.
Okay. Our next agenda items, discussion items. Mr. Coley with planning and code enforcement update.
Good afternoon, everybody. Okay. So we haven't spoken in a while. We did not get our earlier meeting this year, so I want to review last year kind of with you guys real quick, go over all the numbers we had for our major categories, and then we'll touch base on where we are to date this year. First thing, looking at all the plat reviews we did last year, continuing to go up. 2023 is the most we've ever done, so we continue to see increases in plats. Our real estate market is really active. People are buying property, selling property, trading property, and dividing property. Subdivision applications basically plateaued. We're about where we were last year in 22. So we had 28 applications in 23 and 29 and 22 and 27 and 21. So we're kind of at that peak right now. When we get into this year's numbers, we're at 10 so far this year, which is just a little bit behind where we were in 23. But we continue to see big numbers. Variances and special exemptions, again, the most we've ever done, 2023, 29 variances and special exemptions. People are developing things, looking at different ways to develop property, so we continue to have a lot of applications. Our buffer permits are really increasing again. We've basically doubled the last 3 years in a row, so we continue to see a lot of people looking and following the rules, which is great. We're having less issues with people having mitigation requirements on development within the buffer, so I think that's starting to go really well. We're going to be doing a joint presentation with KiwiKey and Duke Energy coming up later on in July, talking about buffer permits specifically, so everybody gets on the same page about that. Our total permit touches for the year, this is for our entire department. We've basically doubled every other year for the last 6 years. So you can look at 18 and 19, the number of permit touches that were coming through our office, and then basically doubling into 20 and 21, and then doubling again in 22 and 23. So we continue to see substantial growth, people building permits, sign permits, development permits of every kind coming in through the county. Year to date, so looking at today, last year we'd done 289 plats. We're at over 300 already for this year. Subdivisions, like I said, we've got 10 in right now. We had 14 in at this time last year. Variances, we've already got 14 in for this year. We had 9 last year. And then with the buffer permits, we're right about where we were last year with the 27 versus 25. That larger map that I gave you guys has some of this information on it. This is 2022 and 2023 subdivisions. So what you're looking at is kind of where those are. If they're still paused with the developer, they're in yellow. Approved is in green, and then not moving forward is going to be those orange numbers. So 2022, 2023, we've still got a large number of parcels coming online. And then for 2024 year to date, we've already got 118 parcels that have come online, and then have another 500 that are basically pending approval. So developers still got some steps they need to do. So we still have pretty big numbers coming online this year as well. Switching gears into code enforcement. So far for 2024, fewer complaints in the last 2 years. So we only had 55 complaints come in so far. We've closed 28 of those. With 2023's numbers, we're getting really close to getting all those closed out. 2022, we still got some hanging out there. But the big number I want to share with you guys is in the last 12 months, we've closed 244 code enforcement cases. Our numbers from 17, 19, 20, 21 are all way down from where they were. So we've really started making progress with some of those. Having that second code enforcement officer has been tremendously helpful in getting caught back up. We're really at a place where we can hopefully get that number even lower for next year. And finally, I always like to show you guys what that code enforcement stuff looks like. This is James Street over in Utica. Now this is a dilapidated property that has been rehabilitated. That lot is now cleaned up, looking really good. No longer a campsite for folks. So happy to answer any questions you guys have and kind of give any more detail about anything.
What is a buffer permits?
So the vegetative buffer around Lake Kiwi and Lake Jocassee is that 25-foot protected area from the shoreline inward towards the property. So there's limited development right in there on that buffer that kind of has more vegetative cover. It has natural elements to it to help with the erosion going into the lake and keep it kind of more pristine and natural. So you can do 6-foot pathways, you can do patios on grade, you can do all kinds of stuff, but it's basically limited to about 15% of the total buffer on your property.
Okay. That allows them to put a walkway in whatever.
They can put a walkway, they can put a golf cart path and a turnaround. So a 6-foot wide path is plenty for a golf cart, and then they can do a 100-foot turnaround or a 100-foot patio.
Mr. Mize, to make you feel good, I was gonna ask the same question. You beat me to it.
Mr. Miles, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
So the total number, there's quite a few going all the way back to 2022 awaiting developer response.
Yes.
I mean, how long do those just hang out there before, the application is dead, or does it just stay indefinitely?
So this goes into the fee schedule that we presented this year for the budget. We had 2 ordinance recommendations for you guys as well. The first was not to begin subdivision reviews until all the subdivision fees were paid. And the second was to have a 6-month inactive period and then close it out and make the applicant reapply. And that would be for county comments. So if they're waiting on DHEC or DOT or anything like that, we wouldn't count that against them. But if they have county comments pending and haven't made any changes, we would like to be able to void that application after 6 months of inactivity.
All right, thank you.
Absolutely.
So where does that stand?
If I may, Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
once the budget is approved this evening, we'll begin the process of ordinance creation for that. The fee schedule and the recommendation for the ordinance change was a part of the budget. So once that budget document is approved, our next step is to bring those recommendations back for discussion and evaluation.
okay, great. I don't think I've got any other questions. Mr. Hart, you got any?
No, sir, I don't.
Appreciate you guys.
Yes, sir, thank you.
Thank you. Our next discussion is regarding commercial and industrial investment in Oconee County, specifically Oconee County properties.
Overly, Mr. Durham?
Yes, ma'am. So, Mr. Myers, we discussed this, about a year ago, and we talked about how we, Mr. Gilbert was at the committee meeting too. We discussed about how we wanted a policy of not incentivizing, particularly Chinese investments in the county. It came up at the recent county council meeting, and council member comment about, how Chinese companies, try to buy land in the county. And during that discussion, I asked Mr. Root if we could, it's been brought forward by the state, but they've never done anything with it. If we can preclude at the county level, the purchase of land from a foreign entity. And I did speak with Mr. Root via email a little bit about that. And if Mr. Root would like to fill in everybody else, that would be great.
Yes, sir. Excuse me. Glad to jump in. So the state has, and I looked in, of course, there's not a whole lot of guiding legal authority directly on point on this issue, kind of novel, fairly new, but the state is making an effort, and it's now in committee to essentially tag on to a federal designation of a foreign adversary. This would be the People's Republic of China and others. However, the Commerce declares it at the federal level. The state would then adopt that declaration, and they couldn't, as it is now, the bill that's proposed is in committee, they couldn't own any property in the state after a certain date. And there are a number of qualifications and exemptions, et cetera, but that's the essence of the law. That law amends a general state law that allows foreign companies to own property just like a domestic corporation could on all fronts. So the state has a number of statutes that provide for those legal rights for foreign companies, foreign citizens to own properties as individuals who are citizens or domiciled in the state. So it looks like, I feel very comfortable that the state has preempted that area, so any local government attempt would be null and void. Excuse me. I think the only way to get any comfort level that that's not the case would be to ask for an attorney general's opinion. That way we could get some, grace from the state if you wanted to go down that path. But I think the state was certainly going to respond that, hey, this is a matter of statewide uniformity. We need statewide uniformity. Don't want local jurisdictions doing different things. So that's why we have it in the code pretty well laid out and considering amending it. So that's what I found. I'm glad to ask for an AG's opinion if you'd like to, but I think that probably the best bet is I think there is some momentum. Things have changed more and more each month, it seems. Momentum with the bill that's going through the state legislature now. So I think something will come of that one way or the other.
Thank you, Mr. Root. But there would be nothing precluding us as a county from selling any county-owned property such as an industrial park to a Chinese company. Would that be correct? Or Chinese ties?
Yeah, I'd want to do it on a case-by-case basis, but yes. I mean, if we're generally talking about incentivize, I don't want to go too far out there, and there would be means to approach that issue. And yes, and could protect county interest in that manner. It's probably the best way to put it. You evaluate the balancing of the interest and protecting the county interest. If we kind of anchored to that, it would be a means to restrict, incentivizing certainly purchases by what would be a foreign adversary.
And we talked about this. We sort of have it as a vocal policy, but I like us to draft something of ordinance so staff knows and economic development knows that that's their stance. Would that be outside of line?
Let me look at that. So I didn't look about doing it just for an economic development limited ordinance. And I don't know. I want to think about that. But yeah, I don't think it would be out of line, and maybe a policy declaration that I would come back and recommend versus a legislative one being an ordinance. But let me check, and I can have something back for the July meeting.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mr. Root.
Yes, sir.
That's all I have, Mr. Miles.
Thank you, Mr. Durham. Last item for discussion is regarding ordinance 2023-22 related to lighting, buffering, and open space development requirements. And I think Mr. Root was going to speak to that discussion.
Yes, Mr. Can y'all hear me all right? I put it on speaker because I'm also congested and I feel like I'm mumbling into the phone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir, we
Yes, sir.
can hear you fine in the room.
All right, great. So I just want to give a little bit of a background on this one because it's been in committee for a while. This came from last year. Mr. Elliott requested an ordinance that addressed lighting, just as this ordinance states, the lighting buffering limitations within the county. I drafted the ordinance. Excuse me, Senator, I'm trying to pull it up now. And sent it off to the committee. It made it to, I don't want to say it got passed on at least 2 committees because we didn't have time. And so it landed on this one. It's really just in front of the committee now for consideration and to be sent back to full council with either a recommendation or not. I know that, I'm not saying that this is Mr. Elliott's brainchild because it was his idea, but, full council voted to send it to committee. And so that's why we are here now with it. The only thing that would, kind of add to what is listed within the ordinance is the fact that we got a number of blanks that I couldn't fill in from the directions from full council. And those would have to be filled in either now or when it's, when the ordinance is with full council, whenever that may be. As you noticed, he wanted it to be limited to large-scale developments. Big key point was to keep the kind of the lighting shed clear, so still enjoy the aesthetics of where we live, as well as creating some buffer requirements and open space standards to, again, and I believe the notion it fits would be in keeping with essentially what makes Oak County beautiful. So I know that was his goal, so I drafted it essentially as he stated it, and here we are.
So,
I would like to just make a recommendation if y'all can hear me. I know the planning commission, they're really getting their feet underneath them. And the chairman, I think we've all met with the chairman of the planning commission, and he has, Mr. Johnson has a list of ordinances that he intends as far as development standards and design standards for the planning commission to go through. I would sort of hate for us to run in parallel and not necessarily be in alignment. So I would like to make a motion to send this, as it stands right now, to the planning commission and let them, and the direction be for them to work it in with their process and procedures they're currently undergoing to evaluate and make changes.
I'd like to second that.
all right, we got a motion and a second. All in favor?
The vote is 3-0.
All right, that pretty much covers all the discussion items. I need a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Vote is
Aye.
3-0.